Good evening, campers, it's me, Kieran. Today we're going to do the mid-year book freakout tag. And let's be honest, over on this section of the internet, it's almost a mandatory thing you have to do. Even if you don't do tag, you end up doing this one anyway. It's a nice way to kind of recap over, the 6 months where you're at with reading. And the lovely Roro tagged me, and like me, he does single book reviews. He reads the book and then he talks about it if he wants to. It's basically the exact same thing that I do. We talk a lot offline, and therefore we're doing it. The main problem that I have in doing this tag is that over the last 6 months, I've not really read a lot. With managing 3 jobs, a lot of things changing within life, and in reading more religious texts, my fiction reading has really died a death. But I feel as though we're going to come back into it even stronger than before. On top of that, most of the books I've read are quite long and boring and dry, which also makes this difficult because I've not really thoroughly enjoyed a lot. But nevertheless, let's get into it. The best book I've read so far, funnily enough, it's actually the book propping up this camera, and I will do a review of Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. I was a little bit panicked. A lot of people hyped this book. A lot of people were like, it's amazing, it's incredible. And I read part 1, I was like, everyone's lying. And then I made it into part 2, and it was great. And then I made it into part 3, and it was even better. It was incredible. It's astonishing. It's probably like the best Western I've read. Cormac McCarthy, eat your heart out. Lonesome Dove was spectacular. Spectacular in more ways. I think I enjoy how bleak Lonesome Dove is. Everything goes wrong. Everything goes wrong in the adventures and misadventures. And the way that the book is structured, the way that the plotted trajectory towards Montana just keeps things going. I was hooked. During part 2. Now, this could be rivaled. I'm giving you some offline stuff here. This might actually be another question. Oh, do you know what? We'll come to that bridge. We don't script anything here, do we? Offline, Roro is going to send me Stoner by John Williams, which sounds utterly boring. But again, everyone says, wow, this is incredible. And we're going to do a bit of a book swap. So that's coming my way, and I really hope it's as good as everyone says, because if not, I'll be very disappointed. Number 2, what's the best sequel I've read? I'll be honest here, I was a little bit panicked that I was going to cover Samantha Shannon's The Day of Fallen Night, because that was the only sequel I had in my head, and that book was painstakingly atrocious on, again, the fact that they all could have just stayed home and everything would have just resolved itself. And that is the exact thought that you want to reach after reading 800 pages. The almost inevitable, but none of it really mattered, did it? Lucky for me, and lucky for you, because there's a back catalogue of videos. I just went back for my old videos up until January 2024, and I saw Foundation. I really enjoyed the 3rd book of Foundation, the 2nd Foundation. I did an entire video series on that, so I'll link them down below. Actually, all the books that I've done videos on, I'll link them all down below. So I did all of Foundation trilogy, the first 3 out of the 7. I have bought the others. If I get onto it, that's another day. But I was shocked because I thought this came out way earlier than 2024. It was Carlo Vicknaimsgard, The Wolves of Eternity. Now, maybe Foundation was better. What on earth? I don't remember. That book was a bit boring. Maybe. What was the score? I gave it quite low, actually, didn't I? I think I called it something like, this is the most disappointed book I've read. The best sequel I've read is Second Foundation. Number 3 is new release that you haven't read. And you know what? I'm in London, and after recording loads of Done, I went to Waterstone. Now, interestingly enough, Roro mentioned this book, Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. I can't remember what he said about it, but I think he said, wow, this sounds good. And one of the managers, Declan, in the Waterstones I visited, very lovely chap. He said, like your stuff. And I went, give me a book rec now. And he recommended this. And I can't remember what he said, but just remember, if this is really, really bad, you can blame Roro and you can blame Declan. So thank you for that. But yeah, I'm going to read this fairly soon, which leads us on into 4, which is the most anticipated release for the second part of the year. Now, I'll be honest, I don't really know much about... I don't read a lot of new releases, and I don't want to regurgitate what Roro said, but basically, I agree with him. I much prefer buying second-hand charity shop books. I buy a lot of, like, Amazon, like, cheaper, it's like 14 pence with, like, £2 delivery, like, send her on my way. I don't particularly care. But apart from the new Murakami, I'm looking forward to the Murakami. But let's be honest here, if you've not heard of these 2 books, you have no idea. You have no idea when they came out, and I don't know. And you're not going to Google when they came out in English. I'm certainly not going to do that. So let's say that these books are brand spanking new. So we have Oxygen by Sasha Naspidi, which I believe is Italian. I don't know. It's about an 8-year-old who disappears into thin air, and 14 years later she's discovered living in an imprisoned metal container by her dad. The 3 words that come to my mind are fantastic Mr. Fritzl. So there's that one. And also by Europa, mate, there was such a big, that Waterstones in London was so, it was like on 5 floors. They were so, I was book blind by the end of it. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. But I went up and down, Declan recommended me that, I had that in my hands, and I came back, and this is Anna Gavalda's Billy. And it said it's her finest novel yet. And I thought, if you're going to start with any author's work that you have no idea who they are, or if they're alive, or if this is new, you go for the finest book. And Billie Eilish brought out a new song called Lunch. I never read the blurb. It was just called Billie, and I went, I'll do. Who knows what it's about? We'll find out together at some point. What's the next question? Biggest disappointment? Probably, is it a Karl Ove Knausgaard's Walls of Eternity? I mean, he's really hit or miss. After reading every single page of my struggle, I know that Knausgaard can either, like, hit it out to the park, or it's, like, mundane boring. Like, there doesn't seem to be an in-between. And Walls of Eternity definitely hit into that mundane boring to a T, which is, like, if you love Knausgaard, he's giving you Knausgaard. I'll give you a different answer. See, I told you the tags, they're really repetitive. You just give the same old answers, don't you? But is probably Samantha Shannon's Priory of the Orange Tree. Because everyone said, wow, it's great. Wow, it's unlike anything else. And both books within that series were, but they could have just stayed at home and everything would have resolved itself. I didn't think it was that good. Everyone really hyped it. In fairness, my wife said it's great, and when I told her that it's absolute garbage, she told me I was wrong. And we ain't gonna argue with Alex, are we? We just ain't. In saying that, I did get sent Olga Tokarczuk's The Impusia, but I actually don't know if that's out yet. That was mid at best. I mean, how do you... If the last book you read of Olga Tokarczuk is the books of Jakob, like, how is anything going to compare to, like, the magnum opus of Tokarczuk's work? It's a very hard thing to follow. And in saying that, is it a new release? Absolutely not. But I am looking forward to reading Thomas Mann's The Magic Mountain. I don't know why I'm talking about this. The next one is Bigger Surprise, and I'm going to say D by Michel Faber. This book is a Dickens retelling, reimagination of sorts, where the letter D goes missing, and what turns out to be a very serious discussion about language moves into Alice in Wonderland very quickly, and is very irreverent and silly and extremely self-aware to a point that, like all of Michel Faber's work that I've read, have left me more annoyed that I kind of hate it, but at the same time I'm an absolute stickler and love for it. I don't know what it is about Michel Faber. He's very easy to juggle high concept and low brow at the same time in a very perplexing way to me. I need to read more of his stuff. I did buy The Crimson and the White, I think it's called, which is a Victorian romp, I think it's about prostitution. And then his other book, Under the Skin, which was a film, I think it's about an alien who murders people on the Scottish Highlands. That's probably his most well-known. So I need to read those two. And I'm also going to revisit The Book of Strange New Things, which, again, aliens singing Amazing Grace and the complexities of getting a Coke can in outer space out of a vending machine still imprinted in my mind even after a decade. I don't know what that book went off on a tangent, and I'm not entirely sure we got at a message, but it stayed with me. Question 7 is favorite new author. I mean, I'd love to say Larry McMurtry, but that's it. I mean, I've just read one book, so I have no idea. You know what? I'll give you something. I bought on my visit to Hay on Wye for my kids the Hilda comics. The Hilda comics, dare I say, are absolutely phenomenal. Like, if you have a young kid, like 10 and under, the Hilda comics are for you. They are superb. So therefore, Luke Pearson, I'm going to say, is my new favourite author. I've had him in the house for 6 weeks, and I'm not bored of reading them. And I've read them at least 20 times each. Like, each of the 6 that we own, I've read them 20 times. And I'm like, yes, this is great. I have no qualms. I have no quibbles. That made you cry, or the saddest book you've read? I mean, as I've said, nothing goes right in Lonesome Dove. So that's probably the saddest book. I was left agape and agog. That's a fun little thing for you, isn't it? Agape and agog at that book. It's just what on earth is going on? Which leads into the next one. Is a book that made you happy. Literary fiction. Do we prescribe this as a happy experience? I'm gonna have to gather my backlist. I have no idea. Do you know what? The Mammoth Cheese. The Mammoth Cheese by Sherry Holman, I think her name is. It's about a little town in Vermont who get together to make a big old block of cheese. I mean, there's also a paedophilia line in it, but you know what, if you ignore that and you're not lactose intolerant, it was pretty happy-go-lucky, to be honest. I've literally just seen I've missed 2 questions. Okay, we have newest fictional crush. What I love about this tag is that clearly, I actually don't know who originally made it, but they must have been 12. The newest fictional crush. We'll go for, I'll answer it, but I'll not be sincere. Let's choose the Woodman from Hilda, or the Waff. Number 9, newest favourite character. It's got to be Roscoe from Lonesome Dove. Oh, is it Janie? I mean, Janie or Roscoe, they're a good duo in Lonesome Dove. They're quite spectacular. So we'll say Roscoe, because he's the catalyst to meeting Janie. So without Roscoe, you'd never meet Janie. Doesn't work the other way around. So we'll go for that. Unless I will go, that's misogynistic, then yeah, fine, Janie. Let's go for that one, okay? Favourite book to film adaptation of the year? I did finish Foundation by Asimov. Apple TV Plus's Foundation, which off the bat is nothing like Foundation. To say that to call it Foundation is a stretch, to be honest. It is Foundation as if someone never read Foundation. I went, why don't we just change everything? So I would say that's my favourite on the basis that it's the only one. I am really enjoying Foundation, the TV series, but I do think it is a stretch to call Foundation. It's just the same characters, but again, the writers went, how about we just why don't we just do our own thing? Which is kind of what's happening, to be fair. I'm interested to see how the Mule is coming to it. He came up once in season 2, so I'm assuming that the Mule will come into fruition, but he's very much in the shadows, and there's a lot of just saying quantum entanglement and everyone nodding, going cool, as if that means anything. So I call Foundation It's different, but it's good. Favorite video that you've made so far? So, I'm gonna take a leaf out of Roro's book, because I'm very similar to how he makes videos. I have like half hour in my lunchtime to hit record and spiel off. That's the video. Like, I ain't doing it again. I've never retook a video. I edit a lot. I wrangle on for a very, very, very long time. Give you a bookish video that I reveled in making is The Manic Pixie E-Girl, which was an infamous TikTok book that the author thought that if he read books by women, he could make it his own self-published work onto the New York Times bestseller list. People read it. I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I thought, I'll jump on this. And it was garbage. It was garbage from the off. It didn't have anything to say. It was very vapid, like a real bad Chuck Palahniuk. And I just enjoyed making that, because when you have a book that is so bad that the jokes somehow write themselves, it's quite enjoyable. It takes like zero brain capacity to go, oh wait, what do I want to talk about? You can just like at length just spiel. So I enjoyed that one. The penultimate question is the most beautiful book that I've bought. There are new Jeanette Winterson covers, and I really like them. I've read Written on the Body. Written on the Body is probably one of my all-time favourite books ever. I think a book like that is very rare to come by, that is so, like, compulsory to read. It's very thought-provoking. It's very bending of genre. I think Jeanette Winterson she's an okay writer, but I think Written on the Body is categorically one of the best books of the 20th century. Easily. I don't know if it came out to the 20th century. It might be early 21st. I'm not entirely, I don't care. It's very good. In the last 200 years. We do jest, but I want to revisit Jeanette Winterson, especially Written on the Body. We're easy 10 out of 10 book. But I want to see, like, have my taste changed within reading that. I have also read The Power Book, which I did not care for at all. And I also read Sex in the Cherry, which I didn't care for as well. But we'll revisit Winterson. I do have to read Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit by her. And I think more on this channel, I want to kind of deep dive into authors. I'm doing that with Michel Faber, kind of seeing like what he's about. I did it with Murakami, I did it with Knausgaard, and I've quite enjoyed that process in jumping into an author and exploring more of their works in a more condensed time, because I don't really give myself like goals to read anything, which is the next question of like, what do you need to read by the end of the year? And there's nothing that I ever, I'm very not picky. I kind of just get drawn to a book and I go, that one. I don't really give it much thought, but I suppose I'll read this, because if Roro hasn't got this, I'll send it to him when he sends me Stoner. And Declan in Waterstone said it was great, so we have to see if Declan knows what he's talking about. Simultaneously, on top of that, Fall of Hyperion, because me and Roro said we were going to read it together, and he smashed it out in 1 week, and I read 20 pages and put it down. Oops. Also, in books that I want to read is the Booker long list. I don't think I'm going to be sent the books, and there's no way that I can afford the entirety of the long list. So I might pick and choose and definitely read the short list. But on top of that, this is a tag, so we have to tag people. So I'm gonna have to throw her over to my nuzzling cousin. Oh, it's such a joke. Over the pond, Alana. We need Alana to do this ASAP. Simultaneously, over the pond, like a little bit closer. Sarah, freshly read books. Sarah, are we doing Booker? This entire video has been. It's just like, are we doing Booker? Can you like just text me? Who else can we throw it to? Actually, do you know what? I think the first ever tag that I did, I sent it to Simon Savage, and he did it. I think it might have been the mid-year book Freakout. So we're throwing it over to Simon. Let's also throw, who haven't I watched in a while? Rana, we'll throw it over to Rana, and we will, why don't we just search up some people online? Let's find some, like, new people, and we'll just tag them in it. Who cares? Let's just type in booktube newbie. Done. There we go. There we go. There is Meg. There we go. Oh no. She's holding Samantha Shannon. Okay, fine. You know, we don't like Samantha Shannon, but you know what? Friendship has no bounds. How many? 40 subscribers. Go over. I don't know. Spam the bread emoji. I don't particularly care. She's the first one who comes up. Let's see who's the other one. We have Hume's Books. Hume's? Is that how you say it? I'm not entirely sure. 5 subscribers. 1 video. A sister. There we go. You know, I'll also throw this to Joe Spivey. I don't know. I don't know how to say a lot. I don't care enough. Joe. I like Joe. I like Joe's videos. There you go. What do you want from me? What do you want from me? He's not new. He is, I don't know. He's got 3,000 subbers. Send him some bread. Send everyone bread emojis. I don't know what I'm doing here anymore. How do I end this? I don't know. Maybe a bread emoji. Subscribe. I don't know.